Now welcome back to the third part of crane rail clamping to the runway beam. So if you take a look on the screen here, you can see I've already selected all this. So I've just selected the part that I intend to populate all the way to the far end. So I'm going to populate this. As you can see, we had adjusted the distance. Instead of 6 center to center, we added the overlaps of 6 or 55 and added 10 millimeter gap. So that will be okay. So we will work with 65 or 6.065 as our dimension from center to center. So once I've selected everything here, I'm going just to right click, then come to special copy and pick linear. So once I'm in linear here, I have already that in place. So I need 13 of them. So I'll just go ahead and click copy. So if I click copy, we'll be able to see if we stretch on the other end, we'll be able to see we have one extra extending beyond our working area. But that should not be a worry. We'll trim that to the right position. So that has been done. Now let me close that. And what we want to do now is now to populate the clamps. These clamps you see on this far end here, this one and this one. So I'm going to select them here, but I want to first of all change everything to shaded or to a different render so that I'll be able to pick the components that I intend to copy. So I'll press Control and pick that nut and pick this rod and pick this nut and pick that nut and probably select on that rod by selecting it on that section there. So once I've done so, I'm going to do the same thing on this side, but I'll make sure everything has not been deselected. So I'll zoom out and try and come here and pick my rotation point and make sure I also select this accurately without losing my previous selection on the other side. So let me zoom close, and I want to select on this nut and select on that nut and select on that rod and zoom out, and on the other side I'll be able to zoom close and select on that nut and select on that nut and come close this side, and I'll be able to select on this rod. So if I zoom out once again, then come back to my original render of rendered parts, you'll see I have selected everything. Now I want to populate this all the way to the full length of my crane beam runway. So that will clamp the rail to the runway beam. So I'll just right click and come to special copy and come to linear. So I want this to be populated along the x-axis at a distance of 500, but I'll need several of these, or maybe 20 there. As long as it gets on the other end, we'll delete what we don't want. So if I come here and let me prefix this dimension because you're moving in the opposite direction of our 500 millimeter. So let me just click copy. So if I click copy, we'll see what's happening, and if I zoom out, I'll be able to see if that has been populated. It has been populated, but it hasn't reached the level of our we expected. So you can see that even that clashing with that, and that shouldn't be the best option ever. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to undo that and adjust this distance to maybe 700 like that. So I'm going to add that maybe to 100 of them, so that we want to see whether we will reach on the far end of the section. So let's go ahead and click copy, and we just give it some time to pop to set or to bring that instruction to effect. So let me just zoom out once again, and it is somehow closer to our target, but not yet complete. So let me just undo once again. So once I've undone, I'm going to make it 200 so that we reach this far end. So let me just zoom out and click copy. So the moment I click copy, this one I think will reach this far end here, and the rest will just delete. We'll delete the excess of that and let's just give some time to process that information. So once it gets there, we'll be able to now work on it accordingly and get rid of what we don't want. So we have that in place. So I'll just go ahead and click expand. So once I've clicked expand, the rest will just be able to delete. You can see it's all the way to beyond help. And what we can do, we can just undo that and try work with 150. So if I try work with 150, let me just come here and try work with one 150 or 120 right there and click copy. So I think that will be okay. So let me just to give it some time to copy that information. So the rest, when appears there, we'll be able to just to get rid if we don't need them, because that's okay, and we have these in place. So that has ended somewhere here, but that's okay, and I can just go ahead and right click and click interrupt. If I come to navigate here and pick rotate with mouse, I'll be able to pick my rotation point and be able to turn that round, and you can see that. So we'll get rid of only one here. This one here is what we'll get rid of. So I'll just select on it and delete, and come to the other side and pick rotate that, select on that, and come here and try and get rid of these nuts here. Remember, the nuts, it will be hollow, but what you see here, it will be described as a nut on the other side, but there's no the nut will be hollowed, will have some holes to define something like a nut that represents a nut, is what I mean. So let me just right click and get rid of these nuts here. Let me get rid of that nut. Now this will be cut off somewhere here so that we place our stopper. So that will be dealt with later on the next part, on how we can create that stopper here. But since we had created that, it should be such a hectic thing, because we just trim this off, then mirror the stopper on the other end to this side. So we'll have the stopper in this side. So I think that we can do behind the scenes and show you what has been done. So let's meet then, and I hope you can try a similar thing and create by yourself, and that will be the best thing to hear from you. So let's meet then on the next topic.